Hello, welcome to Compelling. I'm Katy Wellesley Wesley. With 18 years of experience in the art world, ranging from blue-chip galleries to startups, I'm now a Paris-based consultant to brands, foundations, artists, and collectors. Thank you for listening to Compelling, a podcast exploring the dynamic intersection of art, culture, and luxury. I'll be interviewing visionary artists, cultural leaders, and brand innovators to uncover how storytelling, mastery of craft, and creative collaboration come together to build community, engage audiences, and shape lasting legacies. Today on Compelling, we're joined by Charlotte Bouygues, an entrepreneur carrying forward one of France's most storied family legacies, but in a way uniquely her own. The Bouygues name is best known for its roots in construction. Charlotte's grandfather, Francis Bouygues, founded the group in the 1950s and built it into a global powerhouse in infrastructure and real estate. In the 80s and 90s, the family expanded into media with the acquisition of TF1, France's largest private television channel, and later into communications. In 2006, the family holding company turned to another world of heritage and excellence, fine wine, beginning with the acquisition of Château Montrose in Bordeaux, followed by other celebrated French wine estates, and last year, an estate in Virginia, the USA, their very first New World vineyard. Charlotte, part of the third generation, began her career at L'Oréal before joining TF1, where she worked in publicity and later programming. In 2021, she moved to the family's wine business, taking on a strategic role at Utopia Estates. It was at Château Montrose that her entrepreneurial spirit took root, the idea of a beauty brand that could weave together her professional experiences and personal passions. Drawing inspiration from the land at Montrose, she has launched Dix Hectares, a skincare line rooted in sustainable agriculture and the rhythms of the seasons. We'll talk today about her path from L'Oréal to publicity, e-commerce and media, and how it ultimately led her back to the vineyards, to nature, and to the world of beauty. Hello, Charlotte Bouygues. Thank you very much for being my fourth guest on Compelling, my new podcast. We're here today to talk about your career path and what led you to Dix Hectares. Mm-hmm. But we're going to start right at the beginning, which is young Charlotte. What were you interested in, and what was family life like, and what started you off down this entrepreneurial path right at the beginning?
Thank you, Katy, for having me. Very glad to be here. Young Charlotte, I would say, was born in a French-American background, but born and raised in Paris, actually in Neuilly, so very beautiful, calm suburban life in an all-girls Catholic school, so something very traditional. Yeah. With two older brothers, I would say, a very vivid little girl, just always, happy about everything. Loved horses, was competing in horse riding a lot with my best friend, and always in the same school until I graduated, and then life changed a little bit because I moved to the US. I went to study in Boston, so I was the first one in the family to cross the pond to go study. And I think that shaped a big part of who I am today, actually, to leave to the US, kind of leave the nest, leave this, suburban life where everybody knows everybody.
Yes.
And have that more open-mindedness, I would say. And I actually went to Babson College, school that's well known for entrepreneurship, and also well known for having a lot of international students. So imagine going from this all-girls school, French, very traditional, to a school where you have people from all over the world, and a very different way of learning. I went from a very top-down approach in France, as we know, to something much more collaborative and much more, and more entrepreneurial mindset. The first year in school, we had to start our own business. So it was a big change, but I loved it. And it kind of made me bloom as an individual. And it started giving me this itch that I wanted to kind of write my own path.
Obviously, you come from a family of wildly successful entrepreneurs. But I wonder, is it even intimidating because there is such a level of success? This is a kind of, it's quite a long way from starting something entrepreneurial to kind of building an empire. So I suppose on the one hand, it's you come from that stock and perhaps it's given you some self-confidence, but at the same time, it's a different animal altogether 3 generations in.
For sure. I think it really goes both ways. There is a terrifying part of it where in my mind, I'm a bit like, it's like being almost the son of Roger Federer and liking tennis and thinking, maybe I could go ahead and give it a go and have a career in that, but like I will never be my father. So there is a terrifying aspect to it. Very intimidating. And yes, there's a part of me that sees this wildly successful entrepreneur and I see it in the media, but I also see it, when we're in business situations together where I see, all the workers look at him and how much respect they have for him. So that's also, I would say that's the second part. I see it as really how lucky I am and how inspiring it is on a day-to-day basis. And actually, the values that he promotes in the workplace are the exact same that he's brought us up with at home. And so it's, for me, like there's something very coherent about it. Failure is not a bad word. And it actually needs to be celebrated. What you need to avoid is to have twice the same failure.
Well, of course.
I remember in college, I can't remember which book it was, but like fail fast, fail quick, fail fast, fail often, but learn from it, you know? And that's something actually my dad told me when I started the Dix Hectares adventure. He told me, in a way, of course, I hope you succeed and this whole deal is a success. But actually, there's a part of me that kind of hopes it will be a failure because he told me, he's like, I think you will learn so much more if it doesn't work versus, there's going to be a part of luck. There's going to be work, of course, but there's also going to be a part of luck if it turns out well. And if it doesn't, you're going to learn a lot and it'll help you for the future.
So we were going to come next to, you've led me neatly into your earlier experiences at L'Oreal, but you moved on then into TF1 and the family business. From that experience, what did you learn and why did you feel it wasn't for you? And you moved on again and found yourself in the vineyards.
So while I was studying at Babson, so I left at 18, I left my house, left my continent to move to the US. So I think there was already a sense of independence that I wanted to develop and this wanting to do my own thing, kind of. I want to start my profession, my career somewhere else. I want to get honest feedback. That was something also, it's not always easy when you're in your family company for people to tell you really what they think of, what you're doing and the work you're delivering. What I take away from L'Oreal is being surrounded by so many brilliant women. It was a lot of women at the time in the New York office in marketing. It's a great school of marketing. It is a mix of discipline, rigor, but also a lot of creativity because I was in marketing development. So we were in charge of, developing the future products in 2 to 3 years. We had to look at the trends, see what would appeal to the consumer. And also what I loved was how do you get into the consumer's mind and how do you create something that is desirable to them? And I found, I went from being in a pretty male-dominated family and not being very involved, like not knowing anything about beauty really, and almost having this negative opinion about it that, it's something quite superficial. Yeah, not having a lot of empathy for it, to being so, it was such an eye-opener in the power of beauty and thinking, wait, it's actually, you're actually giving people these weapons in the best way possible to, express their own creativity, their own self-confidence, and you're giving them this sort of little ray of sunshine every day in their bathroom or in their handbag. So that's when I discovered the power of beauty and that I loved talking to the consumer, basically, and building products, something that was very tangible and that I could have an impact on. So those were great lessons at L'Oréal. Then I, after 7 years in the US, because 4 years in Boston, 3 years at L'Oréal, I flew back home, decided it was time to join the family business. I was 25. And so I joined TF1 for 6 years in different teams. I started out as a salesperson in the advertising part, so selling advertising space to L'Oréal. So that was the link to my old life.
Yeah.
And that was great because it really gave me a really good varnish on the media industry in France. The television landscape, how do we talk about it? How do we talk to our strategy, about our strategy to our clients? And then also I had a marketer hat. And so I knew the way L'Oréal wanted to talk about their products. I knew which kind of context they wanted to invest in. And so it also made maybe our ways of talking to our clients a little bit different with this background I had. And then as I became pregnant with my first son, TF1 purchased the Au Féminin group, which is a digital entity. Basically, we realized obviously that young people are spending more and more time online, less and less time in front of their television. And so how are we going to talk to this new generation? And so that's when we decided to buy Au Féminin, which has different websites. There's My Little Paris, there's Marmiton for food. We had bought Doctissimo from Lagardère. So the point was to have all of these different themes, these different websites catered to a very specific audiences, and then propose to our different clients, the ability to target these different groups of people online. And so, have this kind of very complementary offering to what we had in television. And it so happened that I met a lot of people there, and I realized that there was this beauty box business where the marketing director had left right after TF1 bought it. And it was kind of like running itself. And I realized, wait, this is me discovering the digital world, me getting into entrepreneurship, which I've been wanting to, run a team for a while. And also me getting back into beauty, which is something that I came to love, after L'Oréal. And so it kind of ticked all the boxes, even though it's really not something I had imagined doing. And so I go and see the CEO of the digital group, and I say, Olivier, I see this opportunity, this team is kind of self-run with a bunch of 23-year-olds. I think I could really, try and structure it and accelerate the business. And so he told me, okay, give me a few days to think about it. This is not what we had in mind. And then he goes, okay, I think it's a great idea. He looks at me, he's like, take your laptop, go to the 4th floor and go introduce yourself. And that's it, So I really went from, going into a big company and where everybody holds your hand and you're part of a team and you have this set course and everything is really planned out for you, to, arriving and just introducing myself and being like, sorry, you have a new boss. Here I am. And we're going to learn together. I know some things about media and beauty. I don't know as much about digital. So, I'll teach you what I know and hopefully you teach me what you know and we grow together like that. And so I did that for 3 years.
And how was the beauty box business?
It's like a washing machine. It was amazing. Like every month you have a new theme. And so every month you need to find, obviously new partnerships with brands so that they'll put products in your boxes. And then we also need to find, new theme ideas and what are we going to talk about and what are we going to, what new discoveries we're going to bring to our community of women. And so it was actually pretty great. Like we went through a lot of things together because I arrived, we had 40,000 subscribers monthly. We peaked at 75,000 during COVID, which was crazy. Like we created this TV commercial all from a distance. So like it was all renders. Wow. And we were like, okay, you know, all of TF1's clients had pulled out because, you know, they couldn't sell their products anymore. They had logistical problems. So there was all this this kind of empty space. And so we negotiated preferred tariffs, and we were like, okay, let's try and, you know, advertise online and see. And so we did. And it was the same month that we were collaborating with MAC Cosmetics at the time, which is, you know, this great makeup brand. And so the stars aligned and we boomed and we gained like 20,000 new followers in a month. It was wild. I absolutely loved these 3 years of building this, running this small startup that I didn't build, but that I took over. And now my dream is actually to build something from scratch. And so that's, you know, after almost these 10 years in big companies, it was the year of my 30th birthday. I said, you know, if you want to become an entrepreneur and start your own thing, probably now is the time.
This season of Compelling is presented in partnership with Cahiers d'Art, the legendary Paris publisher founded in 1926 at the crossroads of modern and contemporary art. For nearly a century, Cahiers d'Art has collaborated with icons like Picasso, Duchamp, and Calder, and continues today with leading voices such as Ellsworth Kelly, Philip Perino, Arthur Jaffa, and Rosemary Trockel. Cahiers d'Art is also the home of the legendary Picasso catalogue raisonné, known as the Zervos. This definitive 33-volume record of Picasso's work is one of the most important art publications of the 20th century. At the heart of its program is La Revue, a landmark publication dedicated to artists shaping the past, present, and future of art. And beyond publishing, Cahiers d'Art is also a gallery on Rue de Dragon in Paris, a space where art, culture, and ideas continue to meet. Discover more at cahierdart.com or experience it yourself in Saint-Germain-des-Prés. Let's get on to Dix Hectares, because the backdrop we've established, but Dix Hectares is different. I have never heard of another beauty line that is basing its offering on seasonality. And this is a real point of departure. So can you explain a little about how you arrived at that?
It didn't start out like that at all. It was more, okay, I know we have Montrose, which is this land of Grand Cru in the Médoc. It has these 200 years of legacy behind it. We are known for crafting some of the very best wines. And so I think there's also this sort of, performance and eye of detail in everything we make in Montrose. And then there's also what my family brought to the table in 2006 when we bought the estate. So I would love to say that we've had it for 200 years, but no, it's only been 20 years. But, you know, this whole sustainability aspect, when my father said, you know, I'm not coming from the luxury industry. I know nothing about it. I come from construction. I'm a pretty simple guy. I love soil, and that's why I'm doing this. I love to drink wine as well. And he said, you know, and I still hear his voice. He said, we can't produce luxury products and destroy the planet at the same time. I can't look at myself in the mirror if I do that. Okay. And so he said, you know, we need to be at the forefront of this. Something's going to change. They created an R&D lab made for, you know, research to capture carbon from the, you know, grape fermentations, studying soil health, studying how obviously climate is changing and that's impacting our wines and our, you know, obviously our grapes. How can we manage this without using irrigation, without using chemicals, without using all of these things? So there's a lot that's being done at Montrose. And I said, okay, between the history, the quality that we're able to produce and the sustainability, for me, this is the perfect recipe to kind of grow and create a beauty brand from this. These are the values that I strongly believe in, and we need to tell a story about this that's broader and that's different from wine.
Yeah.
So it started out with these 10 hectares of land that are actually, so they were being used by our sheep as just, grazing pastures. The sheep that we use in Montrose in the winter who come and kind of clean between the vines. So our ecological mowers, as we call them. And, I said, like, there's this land that's, not used for the vines. It's right next to the river. So we get all these amazing, super rich sediments. And basically, it was too fertile to grow wine. It was not the best wine land. And so I said, why don't we use this to grow our own actives? And now that we're doing this, let's try and push because we're actually growing our own actives, I want to make sure that the quality of the products that we make is the very best. And for me, how do you achieve that is through vertical integration and trying to, master every step of the elaboration of your product that you can. And so that's how we created our own lab. It's actually out of an old garage. Well, pretty new garage that was built in like 2010, but a garage. And so the joke in my family is, there are some great companies that were built out of garages. So hopefully Dix Hectares is one of them. But no, so we renovated everything. The lab is not huge, but it's a perfect formulation lab for what we have. And it's obviously, up to all the modern standards and everything. And the point was to have a small team in that lab that was able to formulate, so really craft our own recipes in front of the farm. And in front of our plants that are growing so that they can actually think, about what they're doing and why they're doing it and having the purpose in front of them and being like, I don't want to put any chemicals in this and I know why I'm doing it because it's, just across my window. So that's kind of how it all started. The single largest answer to climate change is actually right below our feet, and it's the soil. And soil is the second largest carbon sink in the world after the oceans. But, where oceans, of course, there's a whole pollution aspect to it, yes. But soil has this magical power to regenerate.
Yeah.
And so regenerative agriculture is a sexy word, let's just say it, to say, wait, let's go back to the agriculture of our great-grandparents. Let's go back to despecializing. Let's go back to having lots of different species and doing crop rotations and using animals in a very, fertile way and making our own compost. And if you do all of this, it doesn't matter what you've done to the soil before. It can start again and it can regenerate. And
How fast?
There's not one answer. It takes a while. You can't say in a year, like, everything's going to change. But I think in a span of 5 years, you can already change things a lot. And so it was this amazing thing of saying, if we regenerate soil, it gives you two things. It gives you plants that are in better health, which, when you're a cosmetic brand, like, it's amazing. You get, the very, super quenched plants with great vitamins and nutrients inside of them. And your soil becomes, again, a carbon sink and starts sequestering carbon. And therefore, you're part of having a positive impact. For me, forget about obviously having a negative impact, but people talk about neutral impacts. And here you have the opportunity of having a positive impact, which is, to me, super strong. And so it all became, a matter of observing what was happening in the farm. We started out with these really in-depth analyses, soil analyses, being like, okay, what is the fertility profile in these 10 hectares? Is everything the same? The answer was no. Some parts were more fertile, some others weren't. Some parts we could already, plant the first year. Some others we weren't able to. So you had to have, a lot of patience and then see, how things evolve. And this is when I realized, but wait, I think, seasons exist for a reason. Nature changes around them. Soil and skin are actually the two outer envelopes, which, both have 3 layers, and they both are very interconnected and have this sort of exchange with the outside world. I think there's a direct wisdom to be taken from everything that's happening here and applying it to skin. And I also was realizing that, I get these newsletters from brands saying, your winter routine is here, and they're going to push, the rich cream for you. And I said, well, yeah, it is true that I need different textures, and I always change my creams according to, the climate that's around me. But it actually goes much further than that. It's not just changing the texture, it's changing the chemistry in my products. And taking the very best and getting it at the right moment so that my skin is more able to, adjust to its environment and has this more harmonious way of traversing the seasons. So that's what we're trying to do.
I mean, I was just trying to get to just to understand, you have the plants, you have to extract from them.
Yeah.
So let's say that your chamomile flowers, I don't know, when does it flower? You tell me. But it flowers, let's say it flowers in May. And you want that to be in the cream that somebody's using around about late spring and early summer. So presumably you're extracting that chamomile this year in order that you can formulate something to offer clients next year.
So it's a little bit different from that. You're
tell
right
me how
that
it's
it
different because I'm being very simplistic. But
yes, so it's always there's always a kind of a trade-off that you need to do between like being this entirely romantic brand and everything that like blooms in the winter I will bring to you for your winter cream. It's industrially impossible. But this was the initial idea, was to say, like, we're only going to use seasonal plants for our seasonal products. The truth is, first of all, you're not going to get much in fall, winter. So there's also like a need to follow the seasons, and there's not much that I can do then. So we kind of switched our focus and we said, let's use all of the plants that we have, regardless of when they bloom. We worked with a partner, a biotech lab in Clermont-Ferrand, who, and so we came up to this partner and we said, so we're not interested in buying your extracts. We're interested in you teaching us how we can develop new extractive methods for our own actives. And so we had, because, in Dix Hectares, everything we do is for the same as what we do for the wine, for product quality, but also sustainability. So we said, we want to use as many parts of our plants as possible, not just the root or not just the flower, We want to be really all-encompassing. We want to use only natural solvents, and we want to use a process that uses as little energy as possible. Okay. And so they were like, wow, you guys are a little crazy, but we'll see what we can do. This is not usually how we operate with brands. And they came back to us and they said, okay, we really believe in your project. We actually think that it also can give us ideas for our other projects. So let's do it. And so that's how we came up with this new extractive method that uses ultrasounds. So it allows us to, be low temperature and really preserve the signature of each plant. And we use birch sap as a solvent, which really, we tried different solvents, and this was incredible in terms of the molecules that we could extract. And so once we had those active ingredients, we said, well, we really have no idea what they do, And so we could see if they have, I don't know if they have, this type of, well-known antioxidant molecule or all of these things, or we could once again do something a little different. And we really leaned into this science that I really believe in that's called Proteomic science. It's a science that's based on 5,000 human proteins. So you test your extracts on skin explants in a lab. And they're able to map on 5,000 human proteins what proteins are lit up by that plant. So I can tell you with a high level of confidence, it's not 100%, but I can tell you that if the SIRT3 protein has an uptake with this plant, then I can tell you with a high level of confidence that this protein is involved in the biological pathway of skin repair. Each plant was tested with this particular science. And this is how we built what we call our seasonal blends. And so we brought 3 to 4 plants, not too many. You know, we're in the French paradox. We're in the less is more. We believe in plant synergies. And so we've mapped and we've used plants according to, you know, the spectrum of action that they could bring for that season and really target the skin's needs according to the season. So that's really what we did and how we knew what each plant was doing and how we use them for the seasons. So in a sense, we're not using seasonal plants, but we're using our plants. We're using only natural preservatives to maintain them. And we'll use the actives that are the most efficacious according to the seasons.
Okay. And
if that makes sense.
It does make sense. And so what have your early adopters said? How do you hope that somebody who uses Dix Hectares for the first time feels about the product?
You know, I think first of all, I just want people to feel good about themselves, that's for sure. But look at the product and say, you know, it's a beautiful object before anything. We aim to be a positive brand, even though we're doing everything we can to be at the forefront of sustainability. I don't want there to be any guilt associated with the brand. I don't want there to be any finger pointing to what anybody else is doing. And so I want it to be first and foremost a moment of pleasure. So through experiencing the product, you know, we've tried to use obviously only sustainable materials coming from Europe. And I want people to just say, first of all, even though they have no idea it's sustainable, to just say, wow, what a beautiful object. And I want to, you know, put it in my bathroom and keep it out, you know, and not just hide it in a closet.
Which, I mean, and it is really beautiful. It is a design object. I mean, you've absolutely nailed it. And for people listening, I will put your website and all of the links to socials into the show notes, because it is an exceptionally beautiful product. So in that, I congratulate you.
Well, thank you. I have no credit for that. It is all our wonderful designer, Dorothée Mélixon, who's a well-known French architect. She's the one who's, amongst many other projects, has designed all of the experimental hotels. And what I love about Dorothée is that she's someone who really wants to fit in to, you know, wherever she knows that the design is going to live, and she really researches the area and the history, and she's super into innovating in sustainable materials. And so anyway, all credit goes to Dorothée. And what I loved about her as well is that she had never worked in beauty. And so I think she went about it in a way that was completely different, very challenging, I will say. Probably the biggest challenge for us was this packaging development. But at the same time, you know, this is something that I've said from the beginning of the Dix Hectares adventure, is we are entering an extremely saturated market. And if we're not doing everything we can, new, better, and different, then there's no point in doing it. You'd rather, you know, stay home, do something else, drink wine.
Well, you've got plenty of that.
Sorry, Katy, to go back to your question, I want people to feel to think that, first of all, it's a beautiful object. And then also when they're trying it, I mean, skincare, it's obviously very difficult to see an effect the first day. So I think this is something that's going to happen within months and hopefully within seasons, because we're really a long-term brand. But I want people to feel that the texture, applies really well, is very smooth, is very nice. And also, the scent. We really wanted to recreate, when you're in the wine industry, a lot of your senses are activated by that product, right? And when you're a wine critic, you really need to, it's taste, but it's smell, it's sight as well, the color. And so all of these things we've also tried to apply to our products, and we've tried to really work on a kind of a feast for the senses, if you will, but it's not like, oh, it works, but it smells horrible. Like, we wanted it to work, but also apply well and smell like a garden. So that's what we tried to do.
A little more about our partner. In 2026, Cahiers d'Art celebrates its centennial, 100 years at the heart of modernism. To mark the occasion, Cahiers d'Art will stage a global program, exhibitions at the Musée Picasso in Paris, at the MoMA in New York, and the Guggenheim Collection in Venice, among others. Alongside these, a landmark centennial book and new editions of the historic Revue will honour a century of creativity while opening a new chapter for the future. Discover more at cahierdart.com. I was reflecting on the relationship between Château Montrose, which I'm almost certainly mispronouncing with my terrible French, embarrassingly.
It's perfect.
And Dix Hectares, which is obviously, Dix Hectares takes so much inspiration from the wine, from the wine estate.
Yeah.
But over time, how do you imagine that relationship will develop? They are independent of one another, although obviously connected.
I think today it would be completely untrue to say that Montrose benefits from Dix Hectares. Not at all. Of course, Dix Hectares is incredibly lucky to have Montrose as a backdrop, of course, and as an inspiration. And I know that is a powerful also tool of communicating our brand values, principles, and our offer. So today, I think obviously the one to benefit from it is more the beauty brand. We are already seeing synergies between the agricultural practices of Dix Hectares and the vineyard. The technical director, Vincent Descupes, at Château Montrose, has been tremendously helping, the farm operations, and he's kind of overseeing that. I would say the founding principles to the agricultural practices in the farm. So that's been really useful. But we're seeing right now that the farm is also teaching, bringing in new practices to the vineyards. So like making our own compost, or, having cover crops, all of these kind of new things. It's great because it's kind of an open air lab. We're able to test things on basically close to real situations, and then see how the terroir of Montrose reacts, and then adapt it to the vineyard. So my dream is for it to be a mutual beneficial relationship, I would say. And of course, today, the beauty brand lives in the shadow of the vineyard, and it's completely normal. But I would hope that one day, they each have their own personalities, and they're both, either cousins or brothers and sister, and they really bring to each other something new.
I think one of the things that we sort of touched upon when we spoke of it before was that wine is, the investment into the terroir and into vineyards is something that really only bears metaphorical fruit generations later. You're in a rare position, I suppose, because of the family support, that you are not being harassed by investors who need a rapid return. But also there is this kind of understanding, because of the love of the wine, that to do something beautiful really takes time.
it's such a fascinating topic because I feel like, I mean, you and I for sure, I think most of the people listening to this, we're all running after it, right? And it's, for me, it is probably the biggest, like such a scarce resource today. And it is absolutely something that you cannot buy. So for me, it's probably the utmost luxury. And yes, the wine industry has a very particular relationship to time, and that's something that I've really appreciated. It was kind of one of my, I was a little bit worried at first when I went into that industry, thinking I come from, now my last experience was the digital world where everything is instant. And I'm used to having such rapid returns. And, you put, this fast delivery or this gift with purchase, and immediately you see your sales change. And I was a bit afraid to say, am I going to be bored? Like, is this going to be, everything I'm doing, and I'm going to see it in 10 years? And in fact, the years pass and every harvest is different. Mother Nature never throws, the same elements in, and she keeps us on our toes. And as you said, everything we do now is going to impact the vineyard in 5, 10, 20 years. But we also have like immediacy that we need to deal with, changing weather conditions and everything. So you're always kind of, okay, we need to deal things with right now. Do we need to treat? Do we need to, what do my vines need from me right now? But also, what do I want to put into place for in 5, 10, 20 years? So it's a good analogy, actually, of like, being a manager or, being a director is, you have to deal with your problems right away or with day-to-day operations, but you also need to like look up and see where you want to go in the future. We've talked a lot about, the plants and everything. There's also the community around it. And that's another vision I have of luxury, and we don't talk enough about it, but the Médoc region is one of the poorest regions in France. We are actually taking from this soil, which is here. I think we have a duty to give back to this area. And so, we want to work with local craftsmen. We want to, involve local schools and teach the kids about soil health. I feel like if we all did this, like the world would be maybe a little better place.
Well, yeah, I agree. And I think that's as you say, it may not be as sexy as, I don't know, saving Venice, but it's incredibly important. And as you say, putting jobs and education into the community that you're actually part of, and that the chateau has been part of for 200 years, long, as you said, long before your family became involved. That's, I agree. I think that's a kind of very responsible approach and ambition, because of course it's an ongoing project.
For sure. And it's a living project. And I also think because we're so small and so young, we have that luxury of putting everything into question and not being like, oh, we have too many processes and we can't change this. And, why would we change it? We've always done things this way. But more to say, like, we're a living project. We want to keep putting everything into question and we want to keep bettering ourselves. And, maybe in 2 years, I won't be putting exactly the same plants in my product. Maybe, maybe it's going to be different ways of, treating my soil. I mean, yeah, the whole thing is living, and that's the beauty of it.
So I'm looking now, reflecting on the questions I haven't asked yet. So if you cast forward 5 to 10 years, do you imagine that Dix Hectares remains something quite artisanal and boutique, or do you actually have a burning ambition to create something that's much more scaled?
So I think we need to grow at our own pace, which means that I don't want to go crazy into celebrity endorsement or, I don't want to take any shortcuts to fame and then have it not be sustainable. That being said, I do feel like we are a new way of seeing luxury, regenerative luxury, something that's more in line with our values the values of this generation. And I don't see why we couldn't impact that, on a worldwide basis. So of course, I want us to take our time in developing the brand, but I also feel like we would be bringing something to the table. And if, today the 1% that can buy these creams can say like, actually, I'm buying something that works on my skin, that's a beautiful object, that's a great experience, but also that's in line with my values, that for me would be amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it might be that you're sort of at the beauty equivalent of the no and low alcohol movement. Do you know that you're about to open up a category that sort of nobody really knew, but actually somebody who's worked in marketing in your career, you do know because it's much talked about. But the generation below us and subsequent generations are very, very minded to purpose-led and what is the kind of responsibility of brands and luxury brands in particular.
And the impact on their health.
Exactly. That it's not just gloss. It's is it going to contribute to my longevity?
Yeah, exactly. And I think longevity is what we're all about. Yeah. It's not like going against. I don't think anybody is going anti an age or, I think we need to accept ourselves as we are, but it's how can I age in the best state possible with the best ingredients at the right time. I think now we're all interested in knowing what we have in our plates, what we're eating, who is the producer, how was it transformed. And I think we're trying to bring this exact standard to the beauty industry. So hopefully it resonates.
And for you now, I mean, is it the challenge of the entrepreneurial, or is it the product, or is it the land? What is it that really gets you up in the morning?
I think it's a mix of all of that, and I don't think it's a linear path. I think some days, I'm super passionate. For me, it all starts with the connection to the soil, for sure. I think there's something, when I left TF1, I had this kind of like very millennial crisis of, I want something with a purpose and I want to have an impact on what I do and I want to have a tangible, quantifiable impact. The entrepreneurial aspect is a love-hate relationship. It's thrilling and it's terrifying. Some days I tell myself, probably my life would be much simpler if I had not started this. And, it's what we say, like, it is such a roller coaster. The lows are very low. The highs are the best highs you've ever had. But I think, at some point, and this is something that I tell myself every day, is it's going to be a succession of a lot of ultra marathons. It is not a sprint.
Yeah.
So you need to pace yourself. You need to do the best you can. And I feel like as entrepreneurs, sometimes our self-worth is directly linked to our sales or, our metrics. I think, we need to distance ourselves a little bit from that and go back to what we were saying about failure and say, it's okay to have, to learn from whatever is happening, even if it's not going my way. And then the creative process is also, something that's very fun and we're trying to do things differently, not trying to bring products that, we always want to bring things to the table that are relevant and that the consumer needs. But we're trying to make them, in the most poetic and authentic way that we can. And that's been, really fun process to see, like, how can we tell the stories of these doers that are in the farm, not just me and like my privileged life, because thank you for inviting me and I'm so happy to talk about it. But it's also like, how do you tell the stories of the people who are actually in the cold, in the mud, harvesting these plants, and really getting their nails dirty so that we can have, beautiful creams after that. And so how do you tell those stories in a way also that is not a satire, that is true and authentic? And also, how do you maybe teach the audience a little bit? You know, I think there's a didactic for me aspect to this brand of, I feel also entrusted with a mission to, you know, all of these things that I've learned about soil and the role of soil in climate change and all of that. It's so powerful. It's such a powerful tool. And if we can spread the word about it, and if we can, you know, if this can inspire other projects behind it, I feel like we've succeeded in something.
Well, on that note, Charlotte, thank you so much for coming and for giving your time. I really thoroughly enjoyed the conversation, and hopefully the listeners of Compelling will too.
Thank you so much for having me.
No, it's an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Compelling, a podcast exploring the dynamic intersection of art, culture, and luxury. You can find out more or get in touch at thecompellingpodcast.com.